A female CEO in a wheelchair sat alone at the wedding until a single dad asked, "Will you be my date? Will you be my date?" The voice was calm and gentle like sunlight through leaves. Elena Whitmore looked up from her untouched glass of champagne. Her fingers tightened slightly around the armrest of her wheelchair. Her blue eyes locked onto the speaker. A man in a slightly wrinkled grey button-down shirt, sleeves rolled to his forearms, jeans faded at the knees. His brown eyes held a kind of easy steadiness. No pity, no hesitation, just presence. She blinked. "I don't dance," she replied curtly. "I'm paralyzed." The words hung in the air. She expected backpedaling, an awkward apology, but the man only shrugged, his mouth lifting in a soft smile. "I didn't say you had to stand to be my date." She didn't know what startled her more, the ease in his tone, or the fact that he didn't look away. People always looked away. Next to him stood a little girl, maybe 3, in a lavender dress with ribbons tied into her curls. She held a cookie in one hand and a stuffed bunny in the other. Her big eyes were fixed on Elena, full of curiosity. Elena turned back toward the dance floor. Lights twinkled above the guests and soft music drifted through the evening air. The bride, once Elena's closest college friend, was laughing in her new husband's arms. Guests spun and swayed around them full of joy, and Elena sat alone, the VIP seat tucked behind a flower archway from traffic. Her designer dress fit perfectly. Her lipstick was intact, but she felt like a ghost at someone else's celebration. Then a gentle tug on her hand. "I'm Luna?" The girl said seriously. "You can dance with me instead." Elena hesitated. "Sweetheart," before she could finish, Luna reached up, laced their fingers, and raised their arms like a ballerina. With a giggle, she twirled underneath. Still holding Elena's hand, she grinned. "Now it's your turn." Elena froze. For a moment everything stilled. The music, the chatter, the weight in her chest. Kevin stepped forward, silent, patient. He gently placed his hand on the back of her chair and gave it the lightest turn. The wheelchair spun once, slow, easy, like a waltz in place. A laugh escaped Elena, soft, surprised, real. Luna clapped. "See, I knew you could do it." Elena looked down at their joined hands, then at her motionless legs, then back at Kevin, now crouched beside her. He wasn't crowding, just being there. Tears welled in her eyes. She started, then stopped, her throat tight. "You don't have to explain," Kevin said softly. "She doesn't ask questions. She just believes." Elena wiped the corner of her eye, trying not to smile. "But it came anyway. I don't usually do this," she said quietly. "I figured," he replied, glancing at the party. "You looked like you needed someone who didn't care how things are usually done." She let out a breath. Deep, steadying. Looking at him now. The untucked shirt, the faded jeans, the worn sneakers. He was everything her old world wasn't. And yet somehow he felt like the only solid thing in the room. They watched Luna spin again, arms stretched like wings. "No one's asked me to dance since the accident," Elena said quietly. "Not once?" Kevin's voice was steady. "Then maybe it's time someone did." Elena laughed again, softer, easier. And for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel like a symbol or a shadow. She felt seen. And in that moment, something shifted. Not because of pity. Not because of grand gestures, but because someone in a simple shirt and quiet voice made her feel like she belonged again. If you believe that a small hand can lead a broken heart back into the light, hit that hype button. Because this isn't just a story about a woman in a wheelchair. It is a story about being chosen in the moment you least expect it. And for Elena Whitmore, everything changed with one question. The morning after the wedding, Sunlight streamed through the small window of Kevin's kitchen, catching flecks of color on the page. Luna was bent over. Her tongue poked out in concentration as she pressed her markers to the paper, filling in each line with bold, enthusiastic strokes. "Are you drawing the wedding?" Kevin asked, sipping his coffee. Luna nodded but didn't look up. "No, I'm drawing us." Kevin set his mug down and leaned over the table. On the page, 3 stick figures stood side by side. One was clearly him. He recognized his glasses and messy brown hair. The second was Luna in her puffy lavender dress, and the third was Elena. The wheelchair was drawn in bright purple. Elena's yellow hair was long and neat. Luna had even given her a sparkly dress tee. Luna pointed proudly. "This is me. This is you. And this is Miss Elena, our new friend." Gavin smiled. It was simple, sweet, but it stirred something deep in his chest, something that felt a little like hope and a little like danger. Later that day, as he strapped Luna into her car seat, he hesitated, then pulled out his phone. He had her name, but not her number. He'd never been the type to push. And Elena hadn't exactly screamed open for connection, but there was something in her eyes last night. Just a flicker that had haunted him all morning. The kind of flicker that makes a man believe in second chances. Even if he's only got one shot, he made a few calls. It didn't take long. She was a CEO after all. Public enough to track down. He sent a text. Simple, careful. "Hi Elena. This is Kevin from the wedding last night. Luna made a drawing of you, and she's been asking when she'll see you again. Could I send it to you, and maybe buy you a coffee sometime, if that's not too forward?" He hit send, then waited. Elena stared at her phone. The message glowed in her palm like something fragile and impossible. She had just returned to her apartment. A sleek high-rise unit with floor-to-ceiling windows and perfect silence. The kind of place that was supposed to scream success. All it did now was echo. She glanced up. The white wall across from the entryway was still blank. The same wall she had once stood in front of with Mark, her fiancé, picking out where their wedding photos would go. That was 2 years ago. He flashed twisted metal screams, rain on asphalt, Mark's hand slipping from hers in the wreckage. The quiet beeping of a hospital room, and finally stillness. She had survived. He hadn't. And with his death came the others. Friends who stopped calling, colleagues who didn't know what to say, whispers at charity galas. Pity in every glance. She'd retreated, built walls, became sharper, colder, more efficient. She had reinvented herself. Elena Whitmore, the unstoppable, unshakable CEO who made investors sit straighter in meetings and never asked for help. But last night, someone hadn't seen the CEO or the wheelchair. They'd just seen her. Luna's voice echoed in her mind. "Say, I knew you could do it." Elena's fingers hovered over the reply button. Then, almost before she realized it, she typed, "Hi, Kevin. I'd love to see Luna's drawing and coffee sounds nice." She hit send. A beat later, another message came through. It was a photo. The drawing, 3 smiling stick figures under a sun that had a smiley face drawn inside it. A river. It family. The title scribbled in Luna's loopy handwriting. Elena smiled. It wasn't polished or practiced. It simply happened. The kind of smile that tugged at corners long unused. She leaned back in her chair, looking up at the white wall again. And for the first time in 2 years, she didn't just see what was missing. She saw a possibility. "Hey, wait, hold on." The voice cut through the noise just as the light turned yellow. Car engines revved impatiently. Elena's hands scrambled at the wheels, her breath coming faster as her wheelchair stuck between 2 uneven slabs of pavement on the crosswalk. The front caster jammed. She was stuck and traffic was moving. A horn blared. She froze. "Don't move," the voice shouted again. Then he was there, Kevin. Sprinting. He darted through the traffic like instinct, one arm raised to halt an oncoming car, the other reaching for her handles. "I've got you," he said, gripping the chair firmly. "You're okay." Before she could respond, he tilted the chair back slightly and navigated the stuck wheel over the bump with practiced ease. Within seconds, they were on the sidewalk again, the chaos of horns and engines fading behind them. Elena sat there, chest rising and falling. Embarrassment mixed with a strange kind of relief. Kevin bent down slightly, hands still on the chair. "Are you hurt?" "No," she said quietly. "Just surprised." He straightened up, smiling gently. "That makes two of us. I didn't think I'd see you again outside my daughter's artwork." She let out a breath that might have been a laugh. "Neither did I." They stood there, the silence, not awkward, just full. He rubbed the back of his neck. "Listen, we were just on our way to get dinner. There's this little Thai place 2 blocks down. Want to join us? Luna would be over the moon." Elena hesitated, but Luna's drawing had been taped to her fridge for 2 days now. "Sure," she said. "Why not?" The restaurant was small, cozy, and painted in warm orange tones. Luna immediately pulled out a chair beside her own and insisted. "This is for Miss Elena." They ordered spring rolls, stir-fried noodles, and curry. Elena found herself listening more than speaking, and that surprised her. It had been a long time since silence felt safe. Kevin talked easily, but never to impress. He told her about his job designing inclusive playgrounds, the kind with wheelchair ramps and sensory walls. "I guess it started when Luna was born," he said. "I kept looking at the world through her eyes. She needed softness, so I tried to build some." She smiled gently. "You built more than that. She's wonderful." Kevin's expression shifted, fond, but a little wistful. "Her mom left when Luna was 1. Said she wasn't cut out for it. I think she expected me to give up. Trade the struggle for convenience." Elena looked at him carefully. "And you didn't?" "No, I just figured Luna deserved someone who stayed." He said it without bitterness. Just fact. Elena's chest tightened. She looked down at her untouched tea. "I used to think people leaving was a sign I wasn't enough," she said quietly. Kevin didn't interrupt. She looked up, blinking fast. Turns out they just weren't built to stay. Their eyes met across the table. He didn't try to fill the silence. And maybe that was what made her keep going. "I haven't talked about any of this in a long time," she said. "You don't have to," he replied. "You don't owe me the details," she swallowed. "But you still care?" He leaned in slightly. "Elena, you don't have to be strong to earn someone's respect. You survived something most people couldn't. That's more than enough reason for me to admire you." The words hit deeper than she expected. Not because they were dramatic, but because they weren't. There was no pity in his eyes, no expectation. Just quiet understanding. Her lips parted as if to speak, but nothing came. Her hands trembled slightly in her lap, and then, without warning, tears slipped down her cheeks, silent and slow. Not because she was in pain, not because she felt broken, but because for the first time someone had seen the weight she carried and didn't ask her to prove it existed. Kevin didn't move, didn't panic. He just reached across the table, rested his hand gently over hers, and said nothing. And that was everything. The late afternoon sun filtered through the tree branches, casting a soft golden glow over the playground. It was unlike any Elena had ever seen. Ramps instead of stairs, swings with back support, textured panels for sensory play. Everything was built with intention. Inclusion wasn't a feature here. It was the foundation. Kevin stood beside her, hands in his pockets, watching Luna dart toward the climbing structure. "This one took 2 years to get approved," he said. "They said it wouldn't be cost-efficient." Elena glanced at him, eyebrows raised. "And I built it anyway." She smiled. They moved toward a bench under a wide oak tree. Elena wheeled, slowly taking in the space. Children laughing, parents chatting. No stares, no awkward silences. Just play. "You made this possible," she said. Kevin looked over at her. "I just gave them what they deserved." She nodded, but her hands curled around the armrests of her chair. Her voice, when it came, was quieter. "I used to go to therapy physical twice a week for 6 months after the accident." He didn't speak, just listened. "I tried, but the progress was so slow. My doctors didn't think I'd walk again. My fiancé left. Friends stopped visiting. It got harder to believe in something no one else believed in." Kevin crouched beside her, one arm resting on the side of her chair. "Do you believe in it now?" "I don't know," she admitted. "It's easier not to hope." He tilted his head. "What if we made it simple? No pressure. Just 2 steps a day with someone who won't let go." Elena looked at him, unsure whether to laugh or cry. He stood and offered a hand. "Come on, let me show you something." They moved to a quiet corner of the park, where a rubber mat covered the ground and parallel bars stretched across a short distance. Kevin locked the brakes on her chair. "You trust me?" She hesitated, then nodded. He gently placed one arm around her back, guiding her hand to the bar. "All right," he said. "1 foot forward, that's all." Elena's muscles tensed. Her breath was shallow. "Luna," Kevin called. "Why need a coach?" The little girl came running, hands clapping. "Okay, 1, 2, 3, go!" Elena exhaled. Slowly, with effort, she shifted her right foot forward, then the left. 1 step, 2. Her knees trembled. Kevin held firm. "That's enough," he said. "You did it." She nodded, lips tight. Back in the chair, her breath came in short gasps. Luna beamed. "You're amazing." The next day they returned, then again the next. 2 steps, then 4. Luna counted with enthusiasm. Kevin never pushed too hard. He was there when she wobbled, when she wanted to quit. On the 5th day, Kevin stood behind her, on her back. "Let's see how long you can stand," he said. "No walking. Just breathe." Elena closed her eyes. Her fingers clenched the rail. 5 seconds, 8. Her legs quivered. 10, 12, 15. Then too much. Her knees gave, but Kevin caught her. He eased her into the chair, but her face was already buried in her hands. "Elena," he said softly, kneeling. She shook her head, but not from shame. When she looked up, her cheeks were wet. "I didn't think I could," she whispered. "I forgot what it felt like to believe in myself." Kevin reached up, brushed a strand of hair from her face. "You didn't forget," he said. "You just needed someone to remind you." Elena leaned forward, rested her forehead against his shoulder, and for a long moment he held her. No fanfare, no applause, just steady, unwavering support. Above them, Luna's voice rang out from the monkey bars. "Daddy, look. I can do it by myself." Elena smiled through her tears. "So can I," she whispered. The ballroom shimmered with chandeliers, polished marble floors, and silver-trimmed linens. Waiters in black vests moved like shadows between tall glasses of champagne and practiced laughter. Elena moved with poise, her golden hair and a sleek bun, a navy gown tailored perfectly to her seated frame. Her eyes searched, there. Kevin stood at the edge of the room, holding a glass of water, stiff in a charcoal suit that didn't quite fit the designer setting. His tie was crooked, his gaze filled with both admiration and an unspoken question. "Do I belong here?" She rolled to him and took his hand without hesitation. "Thank you for coming," she said. I've built jungle gyms for toddlers that feel less intimidating than this place, he replied with a wry smile. For a while, things felt steady. Then came the whispers. Elena's date. Is he staff? No, I heard he's a construction guy. Single dad, I think. Can't believe she brought him here. The sharpest came during dinner from Madison. A slick investment director with a polished smile. I didn't know you were dating, Madison said sweetly. So refreshing to see a CEO open-minded enough to date someone grounded. Kevin stiffened. Elena's fork paused. It's lovely. Really, Madison continued. You could use someone normal, humble. Kevin stood. I'm going to get some air. Elena was after him in seconds, weaving between couture dresses and champagne flutes, slipping through the French doors into the cool night. Kevin, she called. He was halfway down the stone steps. Please don't walk away. He turned, jaw tight. I didn't want to make a scene. You didn't. That's the problem. I am the scene. I don't fit here. They look at me like I wandered in off the street, like I'm something you'll regret tomorrow. She wheeled closer. That's not true. I build playgrounds. You build empires. You build places where kids like Luna feel safe. You built a space where I felt safe. He looked away. I saw your face when Madison spoke. She flinched. I froze. Not from shame. From exhaustion. I've spent my life proving I belong in that room. When they mocked you, it felt like they mocked me for choosing real over expected. Kevin's eyes softened slightly. She caught his hand. I was scared, she said, that if I defended us, you'd think I believed you needed defending. He looked down at their joined hands. I don't need defending, he said. I need honesty. Her eyes shone. Then here it is. I'm scared that if I claim you, I'll lose you when things get hard. But if I stay quiet, I feel like I'm back on the sidelines of my own life, and I can't go back there. I won't. Her breath shook. I've spent 2 years hiding behind strength. But tonight, I'm asking you to stay. Not because I'm strong, but because I'm finally brave enough to be afraid and still choose you. Silence stretched. The breeze rustling ivy along the stone railing. Then Kevin stepped forward. He crouched, touched her cheek. You don't have to choose between their world and mine, he said. But I won't walk beside you in silence. Not when you mean everything to me. Her voice broke. I'm sorry, he smiled softly. I just needed to hear that. What? She leaned forward, forehead against his. For the first time that night, she wasn't a CEO or a woman in a wheelchair. She was just Elena with the man who saw her. And this time, she wasn't letting go. Elena stared at the screen. The blog post was everywhere. Reposted, retweeted, re-shared under headlines dripping with accusation. Billionaire CEO fakes paralysis for sympathy. Attached were old photos of her standing taken before the accident, and a short, grainy video someone had recorded last week at the playground showing Kevin helping her balance for a few seconds. No context, no explanation, just 15 seconds of shaky footage and 1,000 assumptions. The blogger, someone she barely remembered meeting at a tech mixer last year, accused her of using her disability to rebrand her image after a year of declining profits. The article called her manipulative, calculated, and a master of emotional marketing. Hersher, the blogger's most famous article. She closed the laptop. Her hands trembled. By noon, the board had called an emergency meeting. By 5, they'd placed her on temporary leave, pending review. That night, the apartment was silent. She didn't respond to messages. She didn't check emails. She sat in the dark, with only the city lights flickering across the ceiling and the soft hum of the wine cooler in the kitchen. Gan called. She ignored it. Then came the knock. It was gentle, hesitant. She knew it would be him, but she didn't move. Another knock. A pause, then his voice muffled through the door. "Elena, I read it, all of it." Still, she didn't move. Elena opened the door. Her voice cracked through the silence. "I can't." A pause. "Are you hurt?" "No, not physically." She could almost hear the frown in his voice. "Then why won't you let me in?" She closed her eyes. "Because if I do, I'll want to stay close. And if I stay close, you and Luna become targets too. They'll find something, twist something. I'm not going to drag you through this." The silence on the other side was long. "Then I'll care about what people say on the internet," she whispered. "You should." A sound like him sitting down just outside the door. "I've dealt with judgment my whole life, Elena. When Luna's mom left, people said I drove her away. When I showed up at school with paint-stained jeans, they looked at me like I didn't belong in the pickup line. None of that broke me." She listened. Her heart hurt. "But do you know what would?" He continued, voice low. "Watching someone I love shut me out because she thinks she's protecting me when all I want is to be in her corner." She flinched. "Kevin." He didn't let her finish. "I didn't fall for a perfect woman," he said. "I fell for the one who fights, who wakes up every day and chooses to keep going, even when it's hard. I chose the woman who took 2 steps even when everyone said she'd never stand again." A tear slid down her cheek. "I chose you, Elena, not because you needed saving, but because you never gave up on yourself. And I won't let you give up now." She pressed her hand against the door, wishing it were thinner, wishing she were braver. "I don't know how to fix this," she whispered. "I don't need you to fix it," he replied. "I just need you to let me in." For the first time in days, the H in her chest eased just a little. She reached for the handle, paused, then slowly turned it. The door opened. Kevin stood there, soaked from the light drizzle outside, a quiet steadiness in his eyes that reached right into her storm. He didn't speak. He just stepped in and wrapped his arms around her. And for a moment, the world outside, the headlines, the judgment, the noise faded. Elena buried her face in his shoulder. She didn't need to be strong tonight. She just needed to feel. He held her tightly, whispering, "You're not alone. Not this time." And for once, she believed him. The screen blinked once, then twice, and Elena went live. She sat in her living room, a simple white sweater on, no makeup, no lighting, only afternoon sun streaming through the windows. Behind her, a stack of therapy bands rested on a chair, and Luna's drawing of the 3 of them was taped gently to the wall. For a moment, she didn't speak. Then, "My name is Elena Whitmore. Some of you know me as the CEO of Vital Core. Some of you know me from something far more personal." She inhaled, steadying her voice. 2 years ago, I was in a car accident. I lost the use of my legs. I also lost my fiancée, my sense of purpose, and for a long time, I thought I'd lost my worth. The comments started slow, then faster. Hearts, sad emojis, words like, "Stay strong and we see you." But last week, she continued. Someone accused me of faking my injury, called me a liar, said I used my condition for attention, and while I could stay quiet, I realized silence protects the wrong people. She tapped a button. On screen, a short video began to play, grainy but alive. The wedding from weeks ago. Elena in her wheelchair laughing, Luna spinning her hand. Kevin gently turning the chair, the crowd clapping. The first dance. Elena's eyes didn't leave the camera. That moment was real. That joy was real. I wasn't performing. I was living for the first time in years. She bit her lip. I didn't share my recovery journey because I didn't want pity. I didn't want to be known for what I lost. But I'm learning vulnerability isn't weakness. Healing doesn't need to be hidden. Another breath. I've spent years trying to prove I belonged in boardrooms filled with men who never once asked how I was really doing. And now I think I'm ready to stop proving anything. She smiled faintly. I've stepped down as CEO not because I'm ashamed, but because I want to live lighter, truer, slower. I want to love my life, not just lead it. The chat exploded. You're incredible. Thank you for speaking up. This dance made me cry. One comment stood out. We've been waiting for you to come home to yourself. Elena exhaled, then closed the live stream. She let the silence linger, but this time it didn't ache. Kevin stood in the doorway, a mug in hand, eyes soft. He didn't speak at first. He crossed the room, set the mug before her. You were brave, he said, and beautiful. Elena laughed softly. I was terrified. I know, he said. That's what made it real. She reached for his hand. Then unexpectedly, Kevin knelt beside her chair. No box, no ring, just him. I don't have diamonds, he said, voice trembling. I don't even have a question. Her breath caught. I just have this, he whispered. A promise. Let's walk through life, however long, however slow, together. And one day, when you can stand and you're ready to dance for real. He paused. I want to be the one holding you. Tears blurred her vision. It wasn't grand. It wasn't scripted, but it was everything. She placed a hand on his cheek. Yes, 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 she said again through tears. Not because you saved me, not because you're perfect, but because I finally believe love doesn't have to hurt to be real. Kevin Rose pressed his forehead to hers. Neither spoke. Because sometimes after a storm, the quiet is the answer. And this was the calm, not before the storm, but after it, after survival. After choosing to stay, after choosing each other, the garden was quiet. Gentle sunlight filtered through the canopy of trees, casting soft shadows on the grass. Rows of white chairs lined the aisle, each decorated with sprigs of lavender and small paper cranes. Luna's idea. At the front, Kevin stood waiting. He adjusted the cuffs of his shirt, took a slow breath, and looked toward the arch draped in fabric and wild flowers. His hands were steady. His heart wasn't. Luna stood beside him in a pale yellow dress, tiny flowers woven into her curls. She clutched a basket filled with petals, swinging it slightly in nervous excitement. Then the music began. Not the usual wedding march, but a soft piano melody, the same one that played the night Elena first laughed in his arms. Every guest turned. From the back of the garden, Elena appeared. She was wearing a simple, elegant gown, ivory silk that shimmered in the sun. Her golden hair flowed freely over her shoulders, but it wasn't the dress or her beauty that silenced the crowd. It was the way she walked step by step, unsteady, trembling, but unassisted, no wheelchair, no cane. Just her walking forward with every ounce of strength, and will she had built over months of quiet, private battles. She didn't rush. She didn't smile wide. She simply walked. And Kevin, his chest tight, throat burning, stepped forward and offered his hand when she reached him. You came to me on your own, he whispered. She nodded. I wanted to walk into this fully, not as someone needing to be rescued, but as the woman I've become. Kevin pressed her hand to his heart. They turned toward the officiant. Bows were exchanged. Simple, honest promises not to be perfect, but to be present, to hold space, not expectations, to forgive, to grow, to choose each other again and again. And then Elena turned to the guests and smiled, this time fully, radiantly. Now, she said, shall we dance? The music shifted, slow and tender. Kevin gently wrapped his arms around her, supporting her back just enough to steady, not to hold. Elena leaned in, resting her cheek against his shoulder. They swayed. It wasn't graceful in the traditional sense. Her movements were cautious, and his hands occasionally adjusted her balance. But it was theirs, real earned. Luna clapped quietly from the side, beaming, and whispered to a nearby guest. "She's dancing for real. I told you she could." Elena tilted her head up and looked at Kevin. "I danced with you in my heart long before my feet could do it," she whispered. "And I've loved you long before this moment," Kevin replied, brushing a kiss to her forehead. The guests watched in silence, many with tears in their eyes, not from pity, but from the quiet awe of witnessing a love that had been tested, forged, and chosen. Because this wasn't just a wedding, it was a homecoming. For a woman who refused to let tragedy define her. For a man who didn't run when love became complicated. And for a little girl whose innocent faith in goodness had sparked it all. As the song played on, Elena closed her eyes and breathed in the moment. Not the applause, not the attention, just the feeling of being whole, of being loved, of finally being free. Thank you for joining the journey of Elena, Kevin, and little Luna. A story not just about love, but about healing and the quiet magic of being seen. If you've ever stood alone like Elena, chose kindness over comfort like Kevin, or believed in someone like Luna, this story was meant for you. Tap the hype button to support my channel and subscribe so you never miss the moments that remind us. Even in a broken world, beauty still finds a way. You are seen. You are worthy. You are worth loving.